what's essentially happened is you've got this crazy kind of running around trying to find the right subscription platforms to watch what you want. But basically, you just want to watch good movies, right? You watched the first movie of this, now you want to watch the sequel. You don't care whether they've made some kind of business deal with a certain company. You just want to watch the film. As simple as that. Sam's Cup of Tea. Sam's Cup of Tea. So a little bit of background to begin with. Now, I grew up during the 90s and the 2000s, and during that time we had VHS players and tapes, and then DVDs. And if we wanted to rent a movie, you had to physically go to the store and rent a physical tape or DVD from Blockbuster was the most famous one, but there were all sorts of different sort of outlets, Mega Video and all that lot. And there was a magic to it, definitely. And then during my teenage years, DVDs rose to prominence. And then once I was in my 20s, basically coming into adulthood, that was when streaming services sort of had begun to take over. The Internet of Things had really, really begun to dominate everything. So I've grown up in a very unique time where I saw the back end of VHS, the whole cycle of DVDs, and basically in my adulthood, I've experienced this new internet streaming era. So I want to talk about that, and I have a few critical things to say. Now, before I start to bash streaming and all that, I must acknowledge the other side of the coin. Now, obviously, there is a pretty strong one at that. Streaming and the internet have undoubtedly granted us faster, more diverse choices when it comes to films, when it comes to content, and in so many ways, the internet has enriched our lives, and I completely own up to that fact. I don't want to just make this video in the vein of some curmudgeon who hates technology. I mean, here I am trying to make videos on YouTube, which is an internet platform. So I understand where my bread's buttered, and I understand all of the great and wonderful things that the internet and all those other modern inventions have given us. However, it does seem to be the immediacy of everything that I believe has spoiled us a little bit and led us into a rather strange and kind of undesirable situation. You see, before the Internet 2.0, it just simply wasn't possible to watch certain films unless you A, found a video store to rent or to buy it, or you managed to catch it on terrestrial or satellite TV. You know, one of the greatest inventions pre-streaming back in the old days of VHS was the ability to take a blank VHS tape and then basically record anything you wanted from TV onto that tape. Taping, you could load anything on. So if a special movie was on that you've been waiting for, you could press record. What was brilliant about those days is, in my household, we only had 5 channels. But my granddad had Sky, you know, hundreds of channels, including Sky Movies and all these things. So he would record onto a blank tape the movies that I would like to see, from Saving Private Ryan to The Shining to Aliens. You know, yeah, none of these were, you know, child friendly, I guess, but hey, it was a great education. And he would do this great thing where he would cut out the sort of, every time there would be a movie on satellite TV, there would be a picture of it in the TV guide and a little thing. So he would cut out the picture and stick it to this blank tape. So it was this special little thing, and he'd come and deliver them. It was very magical. The only thing I had to contend with was obviously the advertisements in between the film. To the point where there are certain films I watched so many times back in the day that when I watch them now on like a DVD, Blu-ray or whatever, streaming, there are points in the film where I'm expecting it to cut and stop for advertisements. Here comes the tea advert. Here comes the the insurance loan advert. But it never does. There was a magical element to that. So there was something inherently special about catching something on TV that you've been waiting to watch for the first time or again. And don't get me wrong, that still can happen now. We still have TV. We still can happen across films that we're not sure about. You know, we didn't know it was there. But I would argue this expectation, this immediacy of everything hasn't necessarily worked in our favour, and we're in a very strange position now. So let's start with the biggest and arguably the king of streaming services, which is Netflix. So it first started out as a sort of online physical DVD rental outlet where you'd go online and you would order a movie and they would send you the disc in the post. But then they slowly started to add movies to stream, which at the beginning wasn't that great. So when I was at uni, I remember there was like a small percentage of movies that you could actually stream, but people were still ordering them via disc because the internet and the quality of streaming wasn't that fantastic, and you had to have a pretty good connection. Remember, that was around 2011, 2012. But by the time we hit 2014, 2013, it was basically all online streaming, and Netflix essentially paved the way for just completely online digital streaming platforms. And I would say nowadays there's so many of these streaming platforms. I would say Netflix still manages to remain the most competent and the most useful in almost every way. What I mean by that is basically Netflix will work almost anywhere. It doesn't really matter on your internet connection. Usually the quality that you get is really great. And even when I was in Thailand, I was in this awful place, I still managed to get a little bit of a signal. And it will kind of keep running, and it usually just is the most reliable streaming service that I know of. It's very easy to use. Multiple users can use it right now. I don't know if they're going to change that, but anyway, Netflix is the king of streaming, I would say. But obviously, once Netflix had begun to do its thing and gone completely online and started to gain in popularity, Netflix original shows and movies, other platforms, other channels, other companies began to wake up and move completely to streaming as well. And basically then every bugger was doing it, which you might think would be great, right? So now, as it stands, off the top of my head, we now have Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, Disney Plus, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, just to name a few. I'm sure there are a lot more that I haven't thought about. Is there HBO Go or is it HBO Max? I don't remember what it's called. And there are definitely more out there. And you probably think of some. But what this has done is basically it's created a really fragmented service and viewership, in the sense that the way that we consume movies has never been about who makes it, right? You might know that HBO tends to make great TV shows, or New Line Cinema are great for epics. But that's about where it stops, unless you're a movie buff, which most people aren't, okay? If a new film is coming out, whether it's science fiction or a drama or an action, if that movie is a movie that you want to see it, right? And back in the day, it was a simple case of, is it at the DVD shop or the video shop? Let's rent it out and then put it on our TV. We didn't have to have a specific type of box. We didn't have to have a specific subscription to a specific service to watch that particular movie. Every movie worked on every VHS, unless you had an awful crappy one. But anyway, but now, for example, I might have a great setup for Netflix. I might love using that service. I want to watch Spider-Man 1 and then 2 and then 3. But wait, Netflix has only got Spider-Man 3. Where's Spider-Man 1 and 2? Well, it turns out it's Now TV. It's a completely different service. Now TV has Spider-Man 1 and 2. So you have to subscribe to that platform to watch those two movies. Now you might think, well, that's a bit of a pain in the ass, isn't it? You have to re-register again. So it's more time putting in and making a new account and making a password. And is that password the same as the other password? And do you need numbers for this one? A lot of hoo-haing about. But let's assume you can do all that. Then you have to wonder whether your device even plays that subscription platform, because a lot of these things work on laptops and specific devices, and a lot of us want to watch our movies just in our front room, in our lounge, watching them on TV, right? Some of these new boxes, like the Virgin Media Players and Sky boxes, they support certain ones like Netflix, but maybe they don't support Disney Plus or Now TV or whatever it is. So what's essentially happened is you've got this crazy kind of running around trying to find the right subscription platforms to watch what you want. But basically, you just want to watch good movies, right? You watched the first movie of this, now you want to watch the sequel. You don't care whether they've made some kind of business deal with a certain company. You just want to watch the film. As simple as that. And it used to be a lot simpler. Yes, the access wasn't as great, and a lot of the time you couldn't just get things on hand. But now we sort of inherently know that that thing is floating there. I could watch that. But all of these different business models have basically made it so difficult to do that. And each service is gated off in their own specific terms and conditions and work in a slightly different way. I mean, I've been living abroad for the past 5 or 6 years, so I guess some of this frustration is on me. But living in Korea and having to use a VPN just to watch the certain things that were on the right Netflix, or not even being able to get onto certain services and then having to download a different VPN to get that, it's just a nightmare. And to compound this fact is that now you have all these huge studios that are vying for your subscription. And how do they do this? Well, the old carrot and the stick technique. See, films no longer exist as their own sort of entity. They're inexorably linked to the streaming service that they've made a deal with. You know, when Wonder Woman came out, it was this massive, huge thing where it was like, the only way to watch this movie is basically to get onto HBO Max or whatever, HBO Go, and you get like a free subscription service. Disney Plus has been doing the same thing. And so people are signing up and making these monthly subscriptions to all these different services just to watch one show or one movie. And then after that, it's sort of like you've got all of these different outgoings. And it just feels so cumbersome and so clumsy, because a lot of these services aren't integrated well. It's not like you go to one hub area and you access all the movies on there, right? It's just all these different websites and trying to plug your laptop into the TV, stuff that you just didn't used to have to do. And an even more bizarre phenomenon from all of this is sort of like the categories that you get within a service. So like, you know, Apple TV has this like certain section where it's like Studio Canal Collection, right? It's like, that's a production company and it's a collection of films that are those. But, you know, I'm aware that these studios create these films, but it's not really at the forefront of my brain when deciding what to watch. You know, I don't ever recall going into a video shop and thinking, I fancy a New Line Cinema fantasy epic this evening. You know, no, that's not how you do things. As consumers of this sort of entertainment, we don't really care about the corporation that's behind it, the funding that's attached to it. Of course we care about who directed it and things like that. That's a different kettle of fish. But when you talk about, you know, the Studio Canal Collection, I mean, it's just, if you were to say to someone, you know, what's your favourite Studio Canal film? They'd be like, you know, if you said to someone, what's your favourite Scorsese film? That's a better question. That is a question that comes from a fan of movies. All we want to do is to be able to browse A to Z through a list, or go through basic genres from new, classic, and horror, thriller, all those things. And, you know, new or old, just in, those kinds of things. That's how you can organise it. But to kind of base it on this studio and assign, you know, subscribe to this, it's very strange. And it really doesn't seem like it benefits the consumer. It just seems like it's for them, you know, for profit-driven purposes. And all of it in the end just leaves me irritated when I'm actually trying to find a film. I end up being pissed off. All I'm trying to do is figure out what I want to watch. But then I'm trying to figure out how to watch it. And maybe I need this service to get this. And then I've got to register and I've got to do all that. And, you know, like, we're trying to watch something, you know, most people don't want to subscribe to HBO Max just to watch the new Wonder Woman film. And to be honest, it's a model that's just not sustainable and doesn't have the viewer's best interests at heart at all. We don't just want some movies or the first one of a series, of a trilogy, only to then have to Google and type in, you know, The Godfather Part 2 streaming, where to stream, because it's not on the current service. So although technology has advanced a shit ton in the past 10 years at a phenomenal rate, the actual experience of, you know, finding a film that you want to watch has become a lot more faffy and involved and frustrating. You know, yes, perhaps maybe back in the day, I wouldn't have been able to access some of the films that I've got access to. But back then, there wasn't the technology to even do that. So I was just kind of accepted that fact. But nowadays, we know that that thing is out there somewhere, but it's been placed on this other specific platform. And it just doesn't make sense to me. You know, they say a lot of things boil down to the user experience. And I would argue that the user experience of modern day consumption of movies, entertainment is absolutely worse. Like, it can be better, right? If you've got a setup that's already there and you've been watching, you know, Better Call Saul on your Netflix TV, your TV attached to Netflix, and you've been watching it in your season 3, yeah, that system is all great. It's buttery smooth and you just click a button and it's on, you know? But we're talking about looking for a movie, finding a movie, hearing about a movie, and then trying to watch this movie. That whole process is a complete nightmare sometimes. It can be ridiculous. Whereas before, you would go, I wonder if it's the video shop. Let's go to the video shop. It's there. Let's rent it. Let's bring it home. And you just put it in your system. You don't have to type your email address in. You don't have to create a password. You don't have to remember your password. You don't have to two-step verify it. You don't have to plug in your laptop and do it on your smartphone and do a two-step verification. You don't need to do any of that. You just put the movie in. Get your popcorn ready. You know, put your feet up. And I think we've lost that a little bit, right? We need a service that sort of brings everything together, right? Maybe you do charge people more if they want to watch, I don't know, this certain film, but why isn't there just one united service that works on all devices, right? That you don't need to go into a certain place. And also the regions as well are bizarre. Like, we've got this online capacity now. We're connected on the internet. You can watch anything on YouTube. When a new trailer comes out for a movie, doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can watch it on YouTube, apart from in China and North Korea and places like that. But, you know, whereas now there's this bizarre thing where something will come out and it's on a specific platform and you can't get it because you're not in that country, or you don't have to pay for this money to sign up. And it's not necessarily the money. I don't mind paying for entertainment. I like the idea of supporting it, which is why I tried to go to the cinema as often as I could. I had a massive, huge DVD collection back in the day, even when I was young and broke, because I believe in you know, watching content the way it was meant to be viewed. I don't like to pirate things. But the problem is, these companies are doing everything that they can to actually make pirating seem desirable in some ways. You know, for example, I've got my own MacBook. I've got a brand new 15-inch MacBook, which is great. And I had Apple TV. And then I bought Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. And there was stuttering on the audio and it didn't work. And I spent 2.5 hours downloading it because it was, I don't know how many gigabytes. And it was a nightmare. And it turned out what had happened was there was some kind of refresh rate that I had to change on my setting, which took me months to figure out because I left it and I walked away. Because when you're trying to watch a piece of entertainment, you don't have time to do all of that. But all of these systems are basically only available on a laptop, or maybe you've got the Apple TV box. But anyway, whatever. It's just a very strange situation that we're in. And not only that, we had the whole problem with Netflix, where Netflix would play clips of movies before when you just hovered over it, which was an absolute nightmare. Where you know, they actually did, to be fair to them, remove that feature, but they've still got those awful category names that are like thriller starring French female lead. Like, who looks for movies like that? And I swear there are so many films in the library of movies that are available on Netflix that I'd like to see and watch, and I can never get the algorithm to sort of show me them, because you can never just show me all the films, show me all these ones in thrillers. Just show me thrillers. Don't show me thrillers you think I'm going to like, or thrillers with a Mexican, I don't know, whatever lead. I don't need that. What I need is, you know, the categories are so weirdly specific, and I'm sure for some people they like the idea of this algorithm constantly learning what you'll like and popping things up. But to be honest, sometimes the films that I like aren't related in any way to the one that I just watched. I don't want to watch this Batman animated series just because I watched The Dark Knight. No, I don't. Stop showing me it. Or just show me a generic list that isn't catered to me. When I used to go into a video shop, the place didn't rearrange depending on who I am, right? The place was how it was, and I liked that. I liked that this was just where the movies are. You go and figure it out. What do you want? Here are the new releases. Here are the older movies. Here are the genres. Great. Why can't they do that? You know what I mean? Why isn't there an option just to do that? But there isn't. So, you know, and then you go on a different platform and they've got a different style, and it feels like you're constantly visiting all these different corporations' homes, and they've all got different rules and different etiquette, different device preferences. This doesn't work on a MacBook. This works on this. This doesn't work in this country. You've got to... Just a nightmare, right? So I just think right now, the way that these services work are not conducive to relaxation, to, simplicity. You can have the best devices in the world and it's still a nightmare. You're still going to be there typing away, retyping your email address just to watch the new Die Hard or something. I'm sure there must be a better way of doing this, of delivering content. We've got the technology now to stream 4K technology. In the next, 2 to 5 years, people's internet, the average person's internet, is going to be well beyond good enough to stream 4K, most likely, right? So we've got that technology here, but the way that we're going about it just feels like every single company, every single studio is just trying to cash grab, right? They're just grabbing this opportunity. We're going digital. Let's fucking, what movie coming? Right, Matrix, come on. Let's make the deal with them, right? If you want to watch Matrix, you got to sign up for this, $9.99. Come on. And it's not sustainable, because at the end of all this, in any given 6 months, you've basically had to subscribe to all these different services, and you probably unsubscribe to them. So you've got these old subscriptions. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It doesn't mean to say that I don't appreciate the fact that we don't have to go anywhere. We stay in our homes. We can get a movie like that if we do the right things. But there was a magic, wasn't there, about, for those of you who do remember, renting VHSs and DVDs from shops. There was a sort of special thing about going and getting this thing that you can only have for a few days and you've got to take it back. And, knowing that if you did get hold of that thing, you were going to watch it tonight. Not, what region am I in? Do I have a VPN? What kind of laptop have I got? Oh, does my TV box, does it support Disney Plus? I'm not sure. Does it? That sort of thing. What is that? What's my password again? Oh, shit. I forgot my email. Sorry. Whose phone is this account attached to? I mean, who cares? Who wants that? I've ranted too long. I've enough about this. Please tell me in the comments below what you think of streaming platforms. Do you think there could be a better way of doing it? Do you miss the olden days, the bygones? I sound like such an old curmudgeon, don't I? But anyway, what do you think? Thank you for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel for more content on movies and sometimes video games. Thanks for watching. Sam's Cup of Tea, signing off.